On this episode of Beard Surfboards, I made a flower board for my sister for her birthday and nearly ruined the whole thing on the lamb. But stay tuned to watch how I saved it. So this year, California had a bunch of rain and got a bunch of poppy flowers that bloomed in the spring. And my wife had this idea to put some poppy flowers into a surfboard. And apparently it's like pretty illegal to take them from nature, but we had a neighbor who actually just planted them, and you're allowed to like take the ones that you grow. But my sister saw the board that I made for my wife with the poppy flowers, and she told me she wanted me to make her one with like blue flowers. And so her birthday was coming up, and I figured I'd make one for her. My buddy Chris here moved out to California from North Carolina and just started surfing this last year and wanted to see what it's like to make a board, so kind of a fun one to have him come join me on. But in hindsight, he still hasn't ordered a board from me, so I don't know if it was a good or a bad idea to have him come watch me. Just kidding, Chris. Love you, bro. On my longboards, which isn't like my first choice to surf, but being in California, you kind of have to a lot of the time because it's just too small. I really like putting in this nose concave because what I've been told is when it's flat, it just helps the nose riding. Like just have a flat surface helps nose riding a little bit more. My sister doesn't really surf that often and doesn't really know what she wants, so I opted her for the 3-box, the 2+1 system here. I personally just prefer a board that kind of goes more rail to rail, kind of, I don't know, I guess what would be categorized like more of a performance longboard. I guess just because it goes rail to rail more. And I don't know, personally I just like the stability of having the 3 fins when I'm, I don't know, either doing turns or kind of just maybe more like pumping. Doesn't necessarily help as much when you're nose riding probably, but I feel like I just really prefer having the thruster set up. So I was like really nervous to do this part of the board going into it because this is the longest board that I've ever laminated, and then this is also the thickest cloth that I've ever laminated with, and I'm always really short on resin, and I knew I was most likely gonna mess it up. And then this actual cut right here, I left it too long and is really where everything started to go south. So you can see it really well here. The cloth that hangs down the rail is just way too long. Like you have to get all that cloth saturated with resin and then wrap it under. And I wasn't aware at the time, but I can see it like clear as day now. And yeah, it's just way too long. So basically my worst fear comes true. I run out of resin as I'm finishing the deck and go mix up another batch. And as I start applying it to the rails, they're already starting to firm up, and because it's so long and the resin is already firming up, I start panicking, and I basically turn into Michael Burry in The Big Short. So I had my big freak out and basically had my big pouting session, and then I talked to my buddy about it, and he's like, "Oh, dude, just you can sand it down and just do another lamb over it, and just make sure it's all sanded and clean." And so this is me basically salvaging the big mistake that I made. And honestly, it's not aesthetically like what you want. It's also just a lot of work. Like, it was a total pain to do this, so definitely don't want to do this in the future. So thankfully, I was actually able to get a really similar color to the original one that I put on, and it was a really close match. I couldn't really tell, even knowing that I had 2 layers there, that there was 2 different layers. It sanded off pretty easily actually, and the color matched really well, so I was super pleased. It worked out way better than I could have hoped for. So because my wife helped me with the last one, she kind of wanted to help me on this one, which honestly, you could probably do this flower lamb part with just one person. It doesn't take that long, it's not that hard, but she just wanted to be part of it, so I let her. So this was my first pin line I've ever done too. Not the easiest, but also not the hardest. I think the hardest part for me was really just finding the right tool to spread the resin between those 2 lines. I mix it up and then I start painting it on with this paintbrush, but honestly that didn't work that well. I ended up just using the stick that I had anyway, and that seemed to work pretty well, and also helped me flatten it out. There's a quote that I think of every once in a while. It kind of goes something like this: "A man reaps what he sows. whoever sows to please their flesh will reap destruction, and whoever sows to please the Spirit will reap eternal life. And you know, I'm giving this gift, or sowing, so to speak, this gift that is not only like really pleasurable, but I think also kind of spiritual. I'm not really sure what surfing is. Maybe it's both. Everyone told me like don't sand through the pin line, so I started off here with a higher grit sandpaper, which really, as you can see, isn't doing much. So I quickly switched back to my lower grit, rougher sandpaper, and that made my life a lot easier. I don't usually like show all the different grits that I use, just because it's kind of repetitive and boring, but I don't know, maybe if you guys feel like it would be valuable, I can make a video about that or something. But yeah, I think overall this board was a total pain, but it came out pretty good. Like it looks pretty good, and my sister was super happy with it.